So this video is on the I hand shape and the K hand shape. And if you'll remember from the alphabet, if you put the K upside down, it's a P. So sometimes it can represent things that you would think would start with a P, but it's called the K hand shape. So, and of course, we're still doing it two-handedly. Okay, so the first one that I would do is interview. Interview. Because you remember we did communicate, interview. It's going back and forth. Communicate, interview. You see how it's the same? Okay, and then egotism. Now, there's one sign that I like to use is like the big head, but that's a different handshake, right? So to do the I handshake, I. You're just bragging, or it's all about me, right? You know, I. So that's when you're talking about, oh, she's all the time. It's just about me, even though I. Okay. Final. Last. Final. Institute. Now, you can do that for any type of institution or institution, but it's also used for like the deaf school institute. Thin, but now watch my mouth, right? You can do thin this way. Oh, she's skinny. She's thin. Or it's that thin piece. That thin piece. You need to have your mouth. A lot of times people will do thin this way with the G hand shape. And I was saving that for this, for the thin, where you're going. International. So we did this for institute or residential, and we did this for for universe, global, international, all around the globe. International. So you can do, I don't really do globe because we're talking about the earth, but you could do, it's a global company with the G hand shape, international. So you can use all those types of signs. Gem or jelly is kind of, now that term's kind of like a J, but still it's an I hand shape, right? It's not a J hand shape, so J or jelly. Art or draw. A draftsman. I had a friend of mine that was from Iowa, and she would do that for like a draftsman. But art, drawing. Island. I know it's chocolate, but island. Because it's by itself, right? And all this is surrounded by water. Island. And then industry. Remember we said business, industry. And sometimes you're thinking, oh gosh, do I have to remember an initial for every single solitary thing? And sometimes yes, sometimes no. But as you hear things, it just makes sense to do it that way. When you talk about the Industrial Revolution or something like that, you would do it. You would want to use industry, but business, industry. So it's kind of the same thing. Okay, so let's finish just the I, and now we're to the K hand shape. Okay, so for the first one, it's the K hand shape, but remember I said because it goes down, it's a P. So we can do place. Remember we did location, so this is place. Remember we did lake, but we did like the coastal line, place. A person. I do person instead of with the K hand shape. A lot of people do person. It helps them to remember, and that's okay to do sometimes initial. Proportion. You have this amount, and then you have this amount. Proportion. I don't think that's unless you're going to become an interpreter, you may not be using that word normally unless that's your industry. Proportion, like for math. Permission or to allow. Now I just do it with the 5 hand shape or open B hand shape, allow. But you can also do it for permission. Instead of you need they need to, you need permission. And that's usually more of a formal or official permission. Something maybe needed to be documented, or your boss needs to give you that permission. I need permission. Party. Remember, just the K hand shape. Party. Remember, this was play. Now this is party. And remember when we did perfect and perfect? You can also do it with the K hand shape. Perfect. Supervisor, or someone is supervising you. Careful. Careful. Be careful. And here's our supervisor, or I need to supervise you. Oh, can I borrow a cup of sugar? Borrow. Remember, it's a K hand shape. So we have supervise, be careful, can I borrow, and it's directional. I'm going to lend you. So it's the same sign for borrow, but I want to borrow, or can I borrow, or I'm going to lend you. And so this also, like, remember we did math and geometry and algebra and calculus. You can do this for math or arithmetic, but I usually do that if you need to figure something, to figure it out, or the figures need to, like in accounting. So I just do that. But if you did that for just arithmetic in general, you could do that. But I usually do that for figure, which is still numbers. It's still trying to calculate something. Worse. It's worse. Oh, that situation is awful, but now it's worse. Worse. Paranoid. Paranoid. It's paranoid. It's not panic, it's paranoid. People. Okay, hand shape. People. Now I go backwards. I go toward myself. Some people want to go forward. To me, that's a little awkward. Just feels awkward. Just like salt and pepper, pepper and salt. But I go backwards. People. You can also do this for public. People in general. The general public. People. Kind. What kind is it? Or you're being kind. I've seen it do that way. Oh, she's kind. But I would say she's nice. But what kind is it? What type is it? What kind is it? What kind of sort is it? But I do see people say, oh, she's kind. But I would say more she's nice. And this is more like what type of, what kind of shoes did you want? Also, when we did like be careful, keep, almost forgot that one, keep. It's just kind of the same, but it's the way you do it, right? Oh, be careful. I need to keep that. I need to keep that. And remember, just like with any language, when we speak English, we don't have one word in context. And some people say, well, how do you spell blah, blah, blah? You say, well, how are you using it, right? And it's the same thing in sign language. Well, how do you sign blah, blah, blah? Well, how are you using it? So how are you using that in a sentence, and what context is it? So people aren't going to misunderstand unless it's a totally wrong sign. So so just don't worry about that one as much. Parliament. We don't really use parliament in the United States, but we sometimes do. I've done parliament with a K hand shape this way because we do Congress, right? And Senate. And I'll do parliament. But the UK, the Britain Parliament, is because it's the big sleeve. The robes that they wear is the big sleeve. So you could do either one. Parliament or Parliament would work just fine. You wouldn't have a misconstrue, even though it's in a different place. And remember, we did major and that kind of thing. When you can be professional, you can be professional. Or my profession is. You know, my focus of work is, my profession is. Sometimes that helps people to remember, because I have a tendency to think, oh, that's major, what is your major, and this is my profession. But it's the same thing. What is your focus? And remember we did fail. We did that, but we can do it with a K handshake. And then if you're going to graduate school, if you've already graduated with your bachelor's and you're going to get your master's or your doctorate, then graduate school. I'm not sure why that is. I always like to have these memory minders to help me, especially when I first learned. And then sometimes you just have to remember, just like when you're reading, you have to learn just sight words. You're going, I don't know, you know why it sounds like that. You just memorize it, right? Okay. I don't really use this next sign, but you could use it like you do medical doctor, doctor, nurse, paramedic, or psychiatrist. I usually do psychologist or psychiatrist this way. But you could, but I would, if I was reading that, I might misconstrue it to, oh, you mean a paramedic. So, but it can be psychiatrist because they are a doctor. We did slicing your cake. You could do a piece of cake. That's very initialized. I don't know that I would do that, and I don't know that I've really seen that, but you could see it. I could use it. Some people do the K hand shape and put, like, remember this was medicine. You could do this for poison, but I do poison this way. And then principle. Remember we did like commandments and we did policies and procedures. This is the same thing. Now for principles, but it's not the principal of a school. That sign is principal. Remember, it's like a backwards question mark. Principal. That's the principal of a school. And this is a principal. P-A-L, P-L-E. To kill or to murder, to slay. Hey, that's when I learned that slang word. So I slayed that test or whatever. I don't know if it's slay. So I just showed him, hey, we're going to slay. And that was kind of fun. All right, kitchen. Remember I said cook. So if you want to do it with the K handshake for kitchen, to say that I'm not cooking, but it's there in the kitchen. Oh, okay. So you can do that. I see that, and I've actually used that too. Program. So here we have does nothing in our K hand shape, and it goes up, and you can do program. If you do project with the J, P-J, program. I use that. It's used a lot. It's not a program. Remember, that's brochure, pamphlet. But the program is, I'm going to be involved in a program. So when you do program, that's something that's written that you open up. It's either a trifold or just a double fold. So that's different than a program as opposed to I'm in the program or this is the program. Poetry, which is like music. This is music, so poetry is going to be with the K handshake. The P. It looks like a P. Remember a K or a P? But it's the K handshake. So that's why I keep saying that, even though it's a P. Passover. So it's a fun one, right? So this does nothing, and so you've got your K handshake, and it passes over. It's just a fun sign, and I haven't, there might be some people who are Jewish that are deaf that might use it differently, but I'm not sure why we would have that sign without them using it. So I'm sure that that's what they use, Passover. It's just kind of a play on signs. Let's see, and I think that's it because I jumped ahead on some of the things that are written down here. So we are finished with the I hand shape and the K hand shape. All right, so I will see you in the next video. Have a good one. Oh, I forgot. Rabbit. It's kind of the end of the credits, right? Okay, now I'm done. I'll see you later.